With John Kennedy, presidential air travel officially entered the jet age. In 1962, Sam took delivery of a Boeing 707 Intercontinental jet, number 26,000, with a striking new exterior designed by Raymond Loewy. It captured perfectly a strong, tasteful sense of national purpose and the American presidency. In late June of 1963, Kennedy embarked on his memorable journey to Berlin. His military aide, Major General Ted Clifton.
It was probably one of the most important diplomatic occasions that occurred in his presidency. It was very important that the Germans be assured and reassured of our faith in them, and it was all planned throughout so that he would bring Germany together as well as bringing us together. And as you know, Chancellor Adenauer and Willy Brandt, who was the mayor of Berlin, were political competitors. And Willy Brandt was working to be the next chancellor. And so we had to handle that very carefully. And again, the president used Air Force One to accomplish something. He just suggested that they both ride with him to West Berlin. And Willy Brandt knew that he would get off the airplane with the president, which was good for him politically. But Adenauer also knew that as the incumbent chancellor, he wasn't being shut out of the game. And Air Force One performed a very important diplomatic mission.
There are some who say that communism is the wave of the future. Let them come to Berlin.
Former White House AP correspondent Frank Cormier.
Well, I never saw crowds, I don't think, anywhere in one day as we saw in West Berlin. I suspect 6/5 of the population must have been in the street. It was just enormous. And when he gave that famous speech, and I won't try the German.
Today, in the world of freedom, the proudest boast is, Ich bin ein Berliner.
President Kennedy had a special way of masking a personal habit he indulged in on board Air Force One. Colonel Joe Soffit explains.
President Kennedy was fond of cigars. Generally, he had a cigar in his mouth when he was ready to deplane from the aircraft. And while they were getting the greeting ceremony ready outside, he would usually have that cigar in his hand. And just before he stepped out of the aircraft, he put that cigar in his left pocket and would walk down the stairs, generally, with his hand in his left pocket. I understand that he had quite a few holes in those suit pockets. Why they didn't make them out of asbestos, I don't know.
On the morning of November 22nd, 1963, it took Air Force One exactly 13 minutes to fly from Carswell Air Force Base, Fort Worth, to Love Field outside Dallas, Texas. It was scarcely long enough for Colonel Jim Swindoll to lift Camelot's new wings above the clouds. The President and Mrs. Kennedy had come to Texas to mend some political fences. Waving aside concerns about hostility, Kennedy ordered that the bullet-resistant bubble top be removed from his limousine. In retrospect, that directive became perhaps the most tragic single order ever given by a president on board Air Force One. The rest became a keenly etched memory for all America and the world.
I was on Simmons Freeway earlier, and even the freeway was jam-packed with spectators waiting their chance to see the president as he made his way towards the Trade Mart. It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route.
White House Press Secretary Malcolm Kilduff has just announced that President Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is about 35 minutes ago.
In the horror and confusion that followed Kennedy's death, Aircraft 26,000 became a place of refuge and security. Before leaving Dallas with the slain president's body and Mrs. Kennedy aboard, the new president, Lyndon Johnson, elected to take the oath of office aboard Air Force One. One of these frames, captured by photographer Cecil Stoughton, became the single most reproduced photograph ever taken aboard a presidential plane. On that hushed and painful flight back to Andrews, Colonel Jim Swindle, Air Force One commander.
And it was almost eerie, quiet, because we didn't have to do much talking. We were on a direct flight, and it's very simple navigation. And FAA gave us anything we wanted, and in hushed tones, everybody was just seemed like they were saluting the president.
For 3 days, television sets across America carried unblinkingly the details of Kennedy's state funeral. There was, at the personal request of Mrs. Kennedy, a final salute from Air Force One and its crew.
She said, Jack loved Air Force One and flying, and said, certainly if it could be arranged, do you suppose they could do the flyover? And it was her idea, and it was said just like that.